Good morning. Today I want to talk about something that caught my eye because I was reading the book of Second Chronicles, chapter 10, where the kingdom is divided after King Solomon dies, and it's talking about how King Solomon's son, Rehoboam, he goes to Shechem, right? Because that's where the people were going to make him king. And when he goes to Shechem, the people, well, actually, Jeroboam, because remember, Jeroboam had received a prophetic word that God was going to give him, I think it was like 10 of the tribes of Israel. So he already knew this. He already knew that God had already told him he was going to be king, even though he was just a servant, right? So he goes, because he was hiding in Egypt. So he goes to Shechem as well. And it says here, I'm going to read it. It says, Then Jeroboam and all of Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam, which is King Solomon's son, and said, Your father made our yoke harsh. Therefore, lighten your father's harsh service and the heavy yoke he put on us, and we will serve you. Now, I don't know if he was being honest. I don't know if he was trying to humble himself or what. We see that here King Jeroboam appears to be like, humble and, doing good. By the way, this king turned super against God. I don't know how they start off good and then they go corrupt, but this is why we have to guard our hearts, because like the Bible says, he who thinks he is strong, you got to be careful you don't fall. So it says, Rehoboam replied, return to me in 3 days. So the people left. Then King Rehoboam consulted with the elders who had attended his father Solomon when he was alive, asking, how do you advise me to respond to these people? And they gave him good advice. Mind you, these are the people, the elders, that would give his father advice. His father was the wisest man alive. You would think this young potential future king would have some wisdom stored from his father, right? Because if my father was the wisest man alive, you better believe I'll be like, Dad, this, Dad, that, and I'll be taking notes. But anyway, if he didn't do that, at least he has the elders that his father has that will give him wisdom. And they did give him wisdom. It says, they replied, if you will be kind to these people and please them by speaking kind words to them, they will be your servants forever. But he rejected the advice. This is pride. Pride comes before the fall. But he rejected the advice of the elders who had advised him, and he consulted with the young men who had grown up with him, the ones attending him, the ones that know the same thing he knows. And he asked them, what message do you advise me to send back to the people who said to me, lighten the yoke your father put on us? Then the young man who had grown up with him told him, this is what you should say to the people who said to you, your father made your blah, blah, blah. And he said, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. Now, therefore, my father burdened you with a heavy yoke, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with a whip, but I with barbed whips. So Jeroboam and all of the people came to Rehoboam on the third day and asked the king, saying, return, they're asking him, okay, what's your answer? And when he told them their answer, the people turned against him. And they said, what portion do we have in David? We have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. Israel, each to your tent. David, look after your own house now. So all of Israel went to their tents. But as for the Israelites living in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. And it says that these people, like this whole chaotic thing broke out where they even killed people. Like they were killing and stuff. And it's like, bro, why didn't you just listen to the advice? This reminds me of when Samson wanted to marry his first wife, and the parents were like, no, like there's so many women that love God here, like why do you gotta get a foreign woman? And the Bible says this, the Bible says, but they didn't know it was the will of God. Now, were the parents right? 100%. They knew what they were saying. They knew Samson was consecrated to God, and they knew, what God had already commanded. So yes, they were 100% right, and their advice was 100% right. As a matter of fact, Samson, he suffered a lot because he didn't take his parents' advice. Because then this woman betrayed him, then she was given to another man, and then she was killed. She was burned, right? So we see that he suffered. However, it was the will of God. So like, at the end of the day, God's will is always going to be done, even if we don't understand it, because God is God. And why do I say that it was the will of God? Because even here it says this. It says, where is it? Where is it? Because it says that this was the will of God. They replied, if you be kind to this people. But he rejected the advice of the elders who had advised him, and he consulted with a young man who had grown up. Okay, what message? Where is it? It says it here. It's in verse 15. So chapter 10, verse 15. It says, the king did not listen to the people because the turn of events came from God. God himself, okay, wanted this. It says, in order that the Lord might carry out his word that he had already spoken through Elijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam son of Nebat. Because he already had told Jeroboam that he was going to have the 10 tribes. So in order for that prophetic word to come to pass, he allowed Jeroboam to reject the advice of the elders. So sometimes you're like, but why would someone that knows God, that loves God, like do something like this? Like, do they not have any do they not listen to the Lord? And it's like, it's because it's the will of God. It's just because it's the will of God. So they'll reject the good advice and they'll act in pride, right? And at the end of the day, yes, it might cause suffering, it might cause whatever, but God is doing it because it's just his will, and God does as he pleases. So anyway, guys, the Bible is full of lessons, and we have to learn from the word. The Bible says that in the multitude of counselors there is wisdom. So when you're going to make a decision, you want to make sure not only that you seek, number one, not just young people. You want to seek people that have experience, advice. You want to seek the advice of wise people, right? Also, multitude. You don't go to just one or two. No. You get, the Bible even talks about having 3 confirmations, okay? And not acting in pride, but in humility. And remember also the fruits of the Spirit, right? So kindness, patience, love, etc., etc., etc. Not to go out of the fruit of the Spirit. So anyways, I just wanted to share this because I was reading it and I was like, man, what a fool this man is. Like, to think he was the son of the wisest man. Anyway, thanks for watching. God bless. Have a nice day.